community centers, in our libraries, in the pre-K classrooms that we're now funding. But when it comes to the K through 12 education system, which is absolutely critical and important, it is the Shelby County school system. And there is a Shelby County Commission with the Shelby County School Board. And if there's any increase to funding there, or that it's deemed that there needs to be more funding, I prefer for the Shelby County Commission, the Shelby County School Board to jointly make that decision, and that it is the tax burden of that is spread out throughout the entire citizenship of Shelby County, instead of taxing Memphis and then taxing Memphis again through the county tax. I live in the city of Memphis. I pay Shelby County taxes. I pay Memphis taxes. And I am okay with my county taxes going to the county school system. But I think in terms of responsibility of government leadership, yes, we have a larger platform and voice, but we need to make sure that if we're giving dollars into the system, we have levers of management, of accountability and oversight. And we don't currently have that with the K through 12 system. That's really overseen even more so by the state government than it is by the city government now. Federal, state, local school board, county, and then city government. I think of those lists of 5 different levels that we vote for, city is probably the least involved in the K through 12. Doesn't mean education is not critical. Doesn't mean that we're not involved, especially in secondary education as it comes towards training and partnership and having a ready job force for economic development. But I think it would be unfair to the citizens of Memphis, and that was one of the major arguments about why the school system was consolidated in the first place, is that there was a wealthier tax base in the county than there was in the city, and they thought there was a disparity. And so to equal that disparity, it would be one large Shelby County school system that would help fund, and it would more proportionately tax the entire county to be able to help the Memphis City schools. Now, if we start taxing citizens of Memphis again on top of the taxes they already paid the county, I think that would be a troubling precedent and would give people all the more reason not to live in the city of Memphis versus the county, or businesses to move to the county instead of the city of Memphis.
John?
I've worked in local, I've worked in state, and I've worked in federal government. I have a degree in political science, a bachelor's degree in political science, a master's degree in political science, and a law degree. And I've been actively involved in the community well longer than my opponent. The only thing I ever found that he did before he ran for office was work for billionaire Governor Bill Haslam. But that being said, I understand the different levels of government, and education, one thing we agree on is that obviously anybody should agree on is that the county does have control of the school system. That being said, the city can do things. And today we had a terrible incident that took place. A crossing guard was run over near Grahamwood. And it was really heartbreaking to see that, because when I ran for city council in 2015, I was supported by Reverend Whalen that year, and he made sure that I had an education platform. And when I had to think about what my education platform would be, I looked around and I talked to citizens. I listened to people, like I always have and always will. That's why I put my cell phone number on my website. I made myself accessible. But one of the things they told me was that about the problems around speeding and issues around schools. So if you look at my 2015 platform, I actually called for better signage, better walkways, more speed bumps, and I specifically by name mentioned Grahamwood. So I mean, it's unfortunate. I know the city council staffers. I know they had a shakeup in who was the staff. But there was at one time a person on the staff who was directly looking at my platform and using it, the 2015 platform, to push, at least suggest policies to the council members. And one of those policies that I just mentioned, unfortunately, never was heeded, and the issues still exist around a lot of our schools where there's not proper signage, there's not proper walkways, there's not proper lighting at night. And if we don't address these issues, we're going to see more tragedies like what took place at Grahamwood today.
May I correct something there?
Well, something you said?
It was just on the Grahamwood issue.
I had a question about that, so
okay.
let me ask the question. What happened at Grahamwood, and describe it more? So
okay.
I'm going to start with you because you brought it up.
A crossing guard was struck by a car today.
And killed?
And she's in ICU. I don't know the latest.
Gotcha.
I had school teachers reach out to me saying that FedEx, I think, went out and looked at the area to try to come up with the solution to the traffic problems out there, but the teacher that works at Grahamwood told me that nothing has actually been done. And again, this is something that I brought up on my 2015 platform. This is not something I brought up yesterday. It's something that I said a long time ago. And And it didn't come from me, it came from the people that I listened to. In 2015, when I ran for office, I knocked on 6,500 doors myself. I talk to people, I'm accessible. Again, I've been heavily involved in the community since 2004. Been involved in all sorts of issues. I can't even keep up and remember all the things that I've been involved in. But I listened to citizens and they told me about those issues, and it's been 4 years since we were running in 2015. And while I'm sure some progress has been made at some schools, the right measures weren't taken at Grandwood, and now we have a tragedy on our hands.
Your response to Grandwood?
Yeah, so it happened yesterday, not today, after school. And I've been in touch with parents over there. I've talked to city engineering. I've talked to the police traffic division this morning. And I mentioned I was on a time schedule to get out of here in an hour because I'm leaving to go to Grandwood while traffic's in schools getting out at 3 o'clock, and I wanted to evaluate the situation for myself. So the city engineering division has made several requests for traffic light flashers at Grandwood. We make that request to Shelby County Schools. They provide the funding, we do the installation. We have heard little to no response from Shelby County Schools, and that's what we've been working on, which is it's completely unacceptable, and we have to do better. It's not only Grandwood, it's several other schools. And I don't think citizens or parents care about the finger pointing of whose responsibility it is. They just want to see it get it done. And that's what we were working on. Unfortunately, someone was struck yesterday while we were in the midst of working on the issue. But I feel confident we're going to get it addressed. It's also a matter for police traffic divisions to kind of monitor, because we have it's not always just the traffic and the way the flow goes. It's also some parents aren't following proper procedure and they're letting children out on Summer Avenue, which is unsafe, and we need to be able to monitor that and take it and try to correct that behavior as quickly as possible before anyone gets hurt. Unfortunately, someone was hurt yesterday.
I know that intersection well. It's a busy intersection, absolutely. Ted, any other questions for you?
No, that's fine.
So our final question, and I'm going to start with John for this one, and this is: what have you learned about yourself and about the district you represent during the campaign?
One thing I really learned about the district, and I learned it in 2015, not this year, was that, and I actually learned it not through the race as much as through my activity in the area, but Binghampton, I think, is a just shining example of what we can do in our community. I love how far that area has come. I love Caritas Village, and I learned about the place through working for the Bridge. It's the Memphis street paper that homeless people sell to make a wage, to make a living. Road students do an excellent job kind of managing that paper, and I'm proud to be on the board and proud to have worked there. But knocking on doors, and look, even though I talk about my working class background and where I come from, I still don't. I could never understand what it's like to grow up as an African American child. I could never understand what it's like to grow up as a poor person. I mean, I was working class, but I wasn't in poverty. I wasn't suffering. And knocking on doors in Binghampton, what it really taught me was how big of a deal blight is in our community. I knocked on a door, and I'll never forget. I asked the lady what her biggest concern was, and as the first person to ever call for body cams in Memphis, they protect our officers, they protect citizens, and they protect our taxpayer dollars through a reduction in lawsuits, which I understand well as an attorney that used to work for the city. But I thought I knew all the answers to anything she could possibly ask. But when she looked at me in the face and she goes, "Do you see that property down there?" I looked, and I saw a yard that had grass as tall as a cornfield, and I went, "Wow, yeah, that's pretty rough." And she goes, "That's where my daughter walks by every day when she goes to school, and I'm afraid that somebody's going to jump out and grab her, or some kind of other safety issue is going to take place." So it really struck me. I knew that blight, again, who's going to say they're for blight? Everybody's going to be against blight, but I never looked at it as a safety issue, and that's why I came up with the plan. What I want to do is, first of all, we have a lot of, and Brad Watkins from Mid-South Peace and Justice Center has been fighting this tooth and nail for a long time, so I have to give him credit for the first part of the plan. But he has been fighting a lot of banks that foreclose on properties, don't properly take care of the properties, and weren't even paying the property taxes on some of them. But he's been fighting that, and I think he's been successful in a lot of ways. I think we need to continue that, and I think we need to use the revenue that we generate from that to put it towards. And I wish there was a different way to do this, but unfortunately our world operates in incentives. Look at our tax code. I think I'm wanting to put forward a tax abatement program for people that will improve blighted properties. And I want to focus it 300 yards from schools, so that the lady I talked to that day can know that when her daughter walks home, she doesn't have to worry about any kind of dangerous elements coming from blighted properties.
Or same question.
Yeah, same question. Of doing this job over the last 4 years, first thing that comes to mind is that this has to be about self-service. It has to be about public service and not self-service, which I think, unfortunately, City Council has too long a history of different members being indicted, and probably more that should have been indicted for public corruption, and that it really is genuinely about the constituents and the people. I don't take a lot of meetings in my office because that's not where the problems are. It ends up being like I am now, this afternoon, going to Grambling, or meeting in the park, or meeting at the business location and seeing what trouble they're having, walking the streets and seeing where the cameras need to be put, or doing the ride-alongs with the fire department, the ride-alongs with the police department that I've been doing for the last 4 years, and I'm going to continue to do. So of the things, there's a certain institutional knowledge that comes with this job, and we have term limits now, and I think that's an okay thing as long as good people continue to step up and run, and we have qualified candidates. But institutional knowledge is something that's very real, and I've taken all the meetings, I've been in the neighborhoods, I've been on the streets, and I've been meeting with anybody really that would ask, and it was of good intent. And I have learned a lot from them, not only about the city of Memphis, but also their life, just what's important to them, what are their hopes and aspirations. And it was something I touched on earlier, where I think regardless of district lines, regardless of the city of Memphis lines, or is this Collierville, Memphis, or Germantown, or unincorporated Shelby, people want to be able to raise their families in safety. People want to have fulfillment. People want to have career opportunities. And the best thing we can do as a city government is to try to provide those opportunities for people to raise their family in safety in a place that they're able to provide for them. And so that has been, I think, the guiding issue for me. It's not about the issues that are important to me, it's about the issues and the tough problems that Memphis is facing, the hills we got to climb, and giving everything I've got to that into this job. And it's been the most fulfilling thing I've done in life. I enjoy this work. When I wake up in the morning, I'm excited about it. There's some days where you get your teeth kicked in, either by the politics of being on the council or just by some of the tough issues we face, but it's still being excited about the next day. And as long as I have that feeling, I'd like to keep going for another 4 years. This will be my last run for council, and I hope for the people that are watching, I can have their support and vote, as well as the endorsement of commercial appeal.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.